Long before freezers hummed in kitchens, cold itself was treasure. In the mountains of northern China, some 3,000 years ago, laborers climbed to snowline and packed ice into insulated pits, hauling it down to imperial storehouses. Poems from the Zhou dynasty, around 1100 BCE, describe officials tasked with filling ice cellars each winter so that summer courts could enjoy chilled delicacies. To cool a cup in July was to command the seasons themselves. Emperors flavored crushed ice with honey, fruit pulp, and fermented milk, creating frosted treats reserved for those who ruled. In the Tang dynasty, kitchens blended buffalo milk, flour, and a touch of camphor into frozen confections that only palace guests would ever taste. Ice was so valuable, it functioned like currency, guarded, rationed, and gifted. Across the ancient world, the same instinct appeared. Alexander the Great, campaigning in the 4th century BCE, reportedly ordered snow buried in trenches to keep his wine cold. Roman emperors dispatched runners to Apennine peaks to fetch snow, which cooks mixed with honey and wine to serve nobility. Nero, ruling in the 1st century, is said to have enjoyed such iced concoctions at his banquets. Everywhere the logic was identical. Mountains held frozen water, and only the powerful could pay the enormous human cost of moving it. Consider the labor involved. A single delivery might require dozens of workers, animals, straw insulation, and hours of dangerous descent through melting slush. Much of the cargo vanished into puddles before arrival. What survived was precious enough to place beside gold on a royal table. Cold was not a convenience. It was a spectacle of wealth, a demonstration that a king could bend nature and geography to his appetite. This ancient hunger for frozen luxury connected distant empires that never traded a single recipe. From Chinese ice pits to Roman snow trenches, humanity had discovered that chilled sweetness meant status, yet harvesting snow was only half the problem. Keeping it, storing it through scorching summers, demanded engineering. And in the deserts of Persia, builders would soon raise structures that captured winter and defied the sun, turning cold from a rarity into something almost controllable. In the arid heart of Persia, where summer temperatures soared past 40 degrees Celsius, engineers achieved something remarkable. They stored ice in the desert. Their solution was the yakhchal, a towering domed structure of mud brick whose earliest examples date to around 400 BCE. From the outside, a yakhchal resembled a giant clay beehive, some rising over 18 meters. Inside lay a deep pit and thick insulating walls, built from a special mortar called sarouge, mixed from sand, clay, egg whites, lime, goat hair, and ash. This mortar was waterproof and heat-resistant, sealing the cold within. The engineering went further. Winter water was channeled into shaded troughs on freezing nights, allowed to ice over, then broken and hauled into the pit. Tall walls cast long shadows to block the sun. Wind catchers, called bajirs, funneled breezes downward, driving warm air up and out through the dome's apex, creating natural ventilation that kept the interior frigid. By these methods, Persians preserved ice through blazing months, transforming cold from a seasonal accident into a controllable resource. From this stored ice came one of the world's oldest frozen desserts, still eaten today, faluda. Thin vermicelli noodles made from starch were frozen into a slush of rosewater, sugar syrup, and lime, sometimes crowned with sour cherry. Served in Persian courts and gardens, faluda married engineering to indulgence, proof that mastering cold meant mastering pleasure. Salt played a quiet but crucial role in this world. Persians understood that salt lowered freezing points and helped manage ice, a chemical hint that would later revolutionize dessert making. Desert ingenuity had turned scarcity into abundance, letting rulers offer chilled treats where nature offered only heat and dust. The yakhchal stood as monuments to human cleverness, refrigerators of clay and wind that predated electricity by millennia. Persia had proven that cold could be captured, stored, and served on demand. But knowledge rarely stays still. As trade routes crossed deserts and armies moved through the Mediterranean, Persian techniques met new ideas, especially the refined science of sugar. When ice and sweetness truly combined under scholarly minds, a new chapter of frozen luxury was about to be written. Sugar changed everything. While earlier civilizations sweetened ice with honey or fruit, it was Arab scholars who mastered sugar as a science, and in doing so, gave frozen desserts their modern soul. Sugarcane, originally cultivated in India, spread westward through the expanding Islamic world after the 7th century. By the 9th and 10th centuries, cities like Baghdad and Damascus refined raw cane into crystalline sugar through boiling, filtering, and repeated crystallization, techniques documented in scholarly texts. From this expertise came sharbat, the sweetened, chilled drink whose very name would echo through languages as sherbet and sorbet. Sharbat blended sugar syrup with fruit juices, rose petals, or aromatic herbs, then cooled with precious ice or snow. It was medicine, refreshment, and luxury at once, served in the courts of caliphs, and prescribed by physicians who believed cold drinks balanced the body's humors. Arab chemists, or alchemists, also advanced the crucial understanding of endothermic reactions. They observed that dissolving certain salts, especially saltpeter, in water made it dramatically colder. This knowledge, recorded by scholars like Ibn Abi Usaybiya in the 13th century, described how a container placed in salted water could be chilled far below ordinary temperatures. It was the chemical key to freezing on demand, without waiting for winter. These innovations did not stay confined. Through the Mediterranean world, along trade routes, and across the frontiers reshaped by conquest, sugar and cooling knowledge flowed steadily northward. The Crusades exposed Europeans to sugar's sweetness. Sicily, ruled at various times by Arab powers, became a garden of sugarcane and citrus, a laboratory where Eastern and Western tastes intermingled. Merchants of Venice and Genoa carried sugar as a costly spice, worth its weight in silver, into Renaissance Europe. Recipes for sweetened, chilled preparations traveled with them, whispered from kitchen to kitchen. By the 15th century, the ingredients of a revolution had gathered: refined sugar, the chemistry of salt and ice, and a European appetite for novelty and display. What remained was for someone to combine them into a solid, spoonable, frozen treat. That final breakthrough would come not from the deserts of the East, but from the ambitious courts and craftsmen of Italy. Renaissance Italy became the crucible where frozen dessert was truly born. The decisive discovery was chemical. Mixing salt with ice lowers the temperature far below freezing, cold enough to solidify a sweetened liquid into ice, not merely chill it. This endothermic trick, inherited from Arab chemistry, was refined into a practical kitchen method during the 16th century. By surrounding a container of flavored syrup with a slurry of ice and salt, and stirring constantly, cooks could freeze mixtures on command, in any season, without a single snowflake from the mountains. Sicily, sun-drenched and rich in citrus, sugar, and volcanic snow from Mount Etna, emerged as a heartland of the craft. Sicilian craftsmen created sorbetto, smooth frozen ices of lemon, orange, and jasmine, prized for their brilliant flavor and glittering appearance. These were not peasant foods. They were spectacles engineered for noble banquets, arriving as edible marvels that seemed to defy the Mediterranean heat. The science spread through curious minds. In 1565, the physician Bernardo Buontalenti, a Florentine polymath, is credited with dazzling the Medici court with elaborate frozen creations, some enriched with cream, egg, and honey, blurring the line between sorbet and true ice cream. Recipes circulated among court cooks who guarded their methods jealously. A book by Antonio Latini, published in Naples in 1692, recorded some of the earliest written sorbet recipes, revealing techniques once kept secret. Making these ices demanded skill and stamina. A servant might stir a mixture for an hour, scraping frozen crystals from the sides, adjusting the sultan ice bath, coaxing texture into being. The result was luxury in its purest form, cold, sweet, and impossibly delicate, dissolving on the tongue before the eyes of astonished guests. To serve frozen cream at a summer feast was to announce immense wealth and sophistication. Italian courts had transformed ancient snow cooling into a controlled culinary art. The frozen dessert now had structure, flavor, and prestige. But Italy would not keep the secret forever. Through royal marriages and traveling chefs, the technique would cross the Alps into France, where a new generation of masters would elevate frozen dessert from banquet marvel into the very height of aristocratic refinement. France turned frozen dessert into an art of civilization. The bridge, according to enduring legend, was Catherine de' Medici, the Florentine noblewoman who married the future Henry II of France in 1533. Her retinue of Italian cooks is said to have carried the secrets of sorbetto northward, introducing the French court to frozen luxuries. Whether myth or history, the story captures a real truth. Italian technique took root in French soil and blossomed into something new. For over a century, ices remained a privilege of the palace, served at Versailles and aristocratic tables, where extravagance was a form of power. Louis XIV's court dazzled guests with frozen creations shaped, colored, and presented as edible jewels. French chefs, obsessed with refinement, moved beyond simple fruit ices toward richer preparations blended with cream, egg yolks, and sugar, the ancestors of modern ice cream. The turning point for the public came in Paris. In 1686, a Sicilian named Francesco Procopio dei Coltelli opened the Café Procope near the Comédie Française. There, ices and frozen delicacies were sold not only to nobles, but to any customer wealthy enough to pay, including writers, philosophers, and revolutionaries in the making. Voltaire and later thinkers of the Enlightenment reportedly frequented its marble tables. The Café Procope helped move frozen dessert from the private banquet hall into public life, an early hint of democratization. French mastery reached new heights in print. In 1768, Monsieur Amy published a treatise on the art of making ices, detailing dozens of flavors and precise methods. Chefs developed a technique of the sabatiere, a lidded pot spun and scraped within a bucket of ice and salt, producing smoother, creamier results. Flavors multiplied, from apricot and violet to chocolate and coffee, each a demonstration of culinary sophistication. By the 18th century, France had crowned frozen dessert as high art, elegant, varied, and unmistakably aristocratic. Yet this refined pleasure remained bound to wealth, skilled labor, and hoarded ice. It was luxury still, but across a vast ocean, in the young colonies and Republic of America, this frozen indulgence was about to arrive, carried by presidents and merchants, ready for a revolution of a very different kind. The recipes crossed the ocean in ledgers, letters, and the memories of European cooks who sailed to a new continent. By the 1740s, ice cream appeared at colonial tables in Maryland and Virginia, a delicacy that announced wealth as clearly as silver or silk. Governor Thomas Bladen served it to astonished guests in Annapolis in 1744, and word of the frozen marvel spread through the plantation elite. George Washington embraced it with enthusiasm. His household accounts from 1790 record a spending of roughly $200 on ice cream in a single summer, an extraordinary sum. At Mount Vernon, he kept 2 pewter ice cream pots and a cellar packed with harvested ice. Thomas Jefferson went further, drafting one of the earliest American ice cream recipes in his own hand, an 18-step vanilla formula demanding egg yolks, cream, and a sabatiere, turned patiently in a bucket of ice and salt. He had tasted the French versions in Paris and refused to leave them behind. Dolly Madison famously served a strawberry ice at the 1813 inaugural celebration, cementing the dessert's place in the young republic's political theater. Yet ice cream remained a privilege, guarded by labor and geography. Every serving depended on ice cut from frozen ponds in winter, hauled by sledge, and buried in straw-lined ice houses that leaked and melted through the warmer months. A wealthy household needed a smokehouse for meat and an ice house for luxury. The freezing itself was brutal work. A servant stood over the pot for 40 minutes or longer, shaking and scraping the metal, hands numb from the salted slush, coaxing the mixture into a smooth frozen state before it collapsed into grainy failure. One batch fed a dinner party, and only the rich could afford the ice, the sugar, the cream, and the hours of muscle. Ice cream in 1840 was still a spectacle of status, chained to human sweat and winter's harvest. But that chain was about to snap. In a Philadelphia kitchen, a dairywoman was studying the tedious process with an inventor's eye, imagining a machine that a single pair of hands could turn. The crank was coming. Her name was Nancy Johnson, and in 1843, she filed United States Patent number 3254 for an artificial freezer that changed everything. Her design was elegantly simple. A metal cylinder held the cream mixture, surrounded by a wooden tub packed with ice and salt. Inside the cylinder turned a dasher, a paddle worked by an external crank. As one hand rotated the handle, the paddle scraped frozen crystals off the walls and folded them into the center, aerating the mixture and producing a smoother texture in a fraction of the old time. What once demanded 40 exhausting minutes of shaking now took perhaps 20, achievable by a single person. Johnson sold her patent rights for $1,500, but her invention spread far beyond her profit. The hand-cranked freezer entered ordinary kitchens across America, and by the 1850s, families gathered on porches to take turns at the handle, transforming ice cream from an aristocratic ritual into a shared household pleasure. Manufacturers refined the design relentlessly. William Young patented an improved version in 1848 that mounted the crank more efficiently, and soon dozens of models competed for the domestic market. Yet the true industrial leap came from a Baltimore milk dealer named Jacob Fussell. In 1851, he faced a surplus of cream from his dairy business and, rather than waste it, began freezing it into ice cream for sale. The economics stunned him. He could produce ice cream so cheaply that he undercut confectioners charging luxury prices. Fussell opened what is regarded as the first commercial ice cream factory, then expanded to Washington, Boston, and New York within a few years. His wholesale operation dropped the price from around 60 cents a quart to roughly 25, pulling the dessert out of the mansion and toward the street. Ice cream was becoming a manufactured commodity, produced by the barrel rather than the bowl. The crank had democratized the kitchen, and the factory had democratized the market. But both still depended on natural ice, cut from lakes and vulnerable to warm winters. To truly conquer the world, ice cream needed cold that no season could threaten, and machines that could make winter on demand. The answer arrived through mechanical refrigeration, the technology that finally severed ice cream from the harvested pond. Carl von Linde's ammonia compression systems, refined through the 1870s and 1880s, allowed factories to manufacture cold artificially, reliably, and year-round. No longer did production halt when winter failed to freeze the lakes. By the 1890s, industrial refrigeration was spreading through American and European food plants, and ice cream output soared. Where Fussell had measured his business in barrels, 20th century factories measured it in millions of gallons. Then came 1904 and the Louisiana Purchase Exposition in St. Louis, a World's Fair that gave ice cream its most iconic vessel. The story, retold in many versions, credits a Syrian concessionaire named Ernest Hamwi, who sold crisp, waffle-like pastries called zalabia near an ice cream stand. When the ice cream vendor ran out of dishes, Hamwi rolled a hot waffle into a cone, let it cool, and cradled a scoop inside. The edible cone was born, a container that produced no waste and needed no washing. It was portable, cheap, and delightful, and it turned ice cream into a food you could carry down any street. The cones spread across America within a decade, and machines soon stamped them out by the thousands. Manufacturing scaled with astonishing speed. Continuous freezers, developed in the 1920s and perfected by engineers like Clarence Vogt, pumped air and froze mixture in one automated flow. The cold chain expanded through refrigerated rail cars, insulated trucks, and eventually the home freezer, so that ice cream could travel from factory to corner store to kitchen without melting. Novelty products followed. The Eskimo pie was patented in 1922, the Good Humor bar rolled through neighborhoods on refrigerated trucks, and packaged pints reached grocery shelves nationwide. What had required a servant's aching arms and a mansion's ice house now emerged from steel machinery, wrapped and frozen and ready. The price collapsed further, and consumption exploded into the tens of millions of gallons annually. Ice cream had become truly portable, truly affordable, and truly industrial. All that remained was for it to conquer every continent, every culture, and every childhood on Earth. The 20th century carried ice cream everywhere, and every culture made it their own. In Italy, gelato artisans refined the dense, low-fat tradition their ancestors had pioneered, and gelaterias became fixtures of daily life. In Turkey, vendors stretched chewy dondurma, thickened with salep and mastic, turning each scoop into street theater. India embraced kulfi, its condensed milk frozen on sticks and flavored with cardamom, pistachio, and saffron, sold from carts in every city. Japan created mochi ice cream, and by the post-war decades, an astonishing spectrum of flavors from green tea to red bean. The Philippines churned sorbetes from coconut milk, sold by roaming dirty ice cream men whose colorful carts became a national memory. American brands globalized aggressively. Howard Johnson's promised 28 flavors. Baskin-Robbins famously offered 31. And by the 1980s, companies like Ben & Jerry's and Haagen-Dazs elevated the pint into premium indulgence again, only now within reach of ordinary shoppers. Soft-serve machines, perfected by figures associated with Dairy Queen in the late 1930s, dispensed swirls at roadside stands from Ohio to Osaka. Global production climbed past 15 billion liters a year. Ice cream became a language spoken on every continent, from Antarctic research stations to Saharan market towns supplied by refrigerated trucks. Consider the distance traveled. Once, a Chinese emperor commanded servants to haul mountain snow. A Persian engineer buried ice in a yakchal against the desert heat. A Sicilian craftsman guarded the secret of salt and ice. A French chef sculpted frozen art for kings, and George Washington emptied his purse for a summer's worth. Each depended on scarcity, on labor, on wealth. Every scoop was a boast of privilege. Then a woman's patented crank, a dairyman's factory, an artificial winter of ammonia and steel, and a rolled waffle at a World's Fair pulled that privilege apart, piece by piece, until a child with a single coin could hold the same delight that once glittered on royal tables. This is the story of a dessert that traveled 3,000 years and every kind of frontier. This is the story of a cold luxury that melted into everyone's hands.